the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
All right, so let's get to what the old guys say about a happy marriage. So I got a couple emails I'll read real quick here because they were really, I thought, kind of cute. And one, let's see. After 61 years, I learned, 61 years, that's pretty good, huh? I learned my secret to happiness in my marriage is remembering that love is less about feelings and more about daily choices. To be patient, to forgive, to keep striving with humility to see my spouse through God's eyes. Well, I can't agree more with that. I mean, because if we could see our spouse through God's eyes, that means we're going to see them through the eyes of love. That does the trick. All right, another one here. Let's see. I found, the key I found to a holier marriage after 49 years is to remember that the more challenging the relationship becomes, the greater the joy will be in heaven, provided I strive each day to help sanctify my spouse, right? Well, and sanctify yourself in the process, yeah. So, I mean, one of the key things is that no marriage is perfect, right? Every marriage has its struggles, its challenges, and its difficulties, right? But life is short. Life is short. What is, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years of struggle, hardship, and difficulty compared to an eternity in heaven? And I think part of the idea is to view marriage not as like this source of happiness, but as a source of holiness. And holiness oftentimes brings with it a cross, and all marriages have a cross attached to it. All right, so let's get on with the 20 old guys. Let's see. Reaffirm your commitment regularly during rough times, and you'll have them, this gentleman says, agree that you're in this thing for the long haul and that you fully expect to stick it out and make it to the next round of good times. Say it out loud and make it known. That is exactly what you said on the day you got married. Till death do us part, right? And I mean, you promised. You gave your word, and you should not go back on that, right? And I think the thing I've observed is when couples I've worked with who say to me up front, listen, divorce is not an option for this marriage, but I'm not willing to be miserable either. Let's fix it. Those couples do great. I mean, they fix it, right? If you take divorce off the table, you get pretty creative in how you can come up with ways to solve whatever seems to be struggling or strangling your marriage. Next one, check in with each other every day. When everyone gets home at the end of the day, ask, how was your day? Let them vent. When they're done, they should ask you the same so you can vent. Do this without fail. This is unbelievably brilliant, and it's tied to great research that the Gottman Institute has put out. Gottman calls it the stress-reducing conversation, and it's a really strong recommendation that when you get together at the end of a long day, tell me what went wrong, because you're bringing that in with you, like dust on a dusty day, right? So you want to dust yourself off from all of this stress. And then that gives you a chance to affirm your spouse and say, man, I love you, and I'm so sorry that the traffic jam and the commute took an hour longer, and you worked so hard for our family, and I love you so much. And it's a chance to affirm and praise. And so I really echo this. This is one of the strongest recommendations, I think, of this entire list, is to have a stress-reducing conversation at the end of the day. It only takes a couple of minutes, but then you end it with affirmation and words of love and appreciation, all right? And then close on to this one was the next one. Let them vent when they, parents, women, talk about a problem or an issue they're having. Do not suggest fixes at first. Let them vent. Suggestion time comes later. Guys like to fix things, and don't discuss problems with guys unless they're seeking advice. But that's true. We generally, when we talk to another guy about something, we're looking for them to help us fix it. Women want empathy and commiseration first, and then they'll want to discuss solutions. I will just say this. For guys, listening trumps fixing. Don't worry about the fixing. If your wife needs help fixing it, she'll ask. And if she doesn't ask, don't volunteer it, right? Listen. Eye contact, ask questions, voice support and encouragement, and validate her feelings, that it's reasonable and legitimate and correct that she's going to feel however it is she's going to feel based on whatever it is she's dealing with. Okay? Stay faithful. Don't cheat ever. Well, that goes without saying. But this is an interesting way he's phrased this. Retrain your brain to shut off attraction to other people, and don't put yourself in a position to slip. Don't even come close to flirting with other people. If you're going out to lunch with a platonic friend of the opposite sex, casually tell your spouse in advance in order to show her respect. Don't lie about what you're doing, right? And this is so true. You have to stay on your guard, especially in our time and our culture and our society. And this problem of an emotional affair is a really big problem in our society because men and women are working together now in closer proximity than ever before. And just because you're married doesn't mean that everybody of the opposite sex is all of a sudden not attractive anymore, right? It's easy. It's a slippery slope. And so you really need to stay on your guard and you need to keep people at arm's length. I always tell people use your left arm when you keep people away because at the end of that left arm, there's a wedding ring. And that says I'm in a committed and exclusive relationship and you're not invited in. So that's what you want to do there. 13, mind your money. Save money so your later years will be easier. Well, now that I'm in my later years, I can tell you I'm glad I saved money when I was younger. Don't waste money on stupid stuff. That's a good idea. Put all money from whatever source in one pot. Talk about how you're spending it. There should be no my or your money when married. Okay, I agree with that, right? Generally, I agree. Might be a couple of exceptions if you've got a second marriage for, a couple of retired folks and they kind of want to keep the inheritance separate and stuff. So there might be some exceptions. But for the typical couple getting married, starting off life, I agree with that. Money is one of the top 2 or 3 sources of conflict in marriage, especially if a spender marries a saver. Man, you've got a lot of problems. And that's something to figure out before you get married because that will lead to problems. I guarantee it. And I spend a lot of time working with my couples on these issues when you've got a spender and a saver who are married. That's a recipe for conflict. Let's call it that. Pick your battles. Don't insult one another. Give a little thing. If she wants you to wear a tie and you don't want to, just wear the darn thing. Okay. I'll buy that, right? I call that yielding cheerfully in matters of personal preference, right? And the other thing is no contempt, right? And insults are contemptuous. And contempt is the number one predictor of divorce. Couples who say mean, cruel things to each other get divorced at a very, very high rate, at like 90%. So your job, our job, my job is to protect our wives' hearts. Or ladies, the same goes for you to protect our hearts as well. And if our focus is on how can I protect your heart, man, all kinds of good things come from that. 15, be generous with signs of affection. Cuddle her without needing to take it to the next level of physical intimacy. I love that idea. Hug her a lot. Kiss her on the neck out of the blue when she's cooking something. Tell her you love her more than you think you should. Boy, I like that guy. I mean, that guy's wife, I'm sure, is very happy, right? And I think when it comes to signs of affection, my advice is try to overdo it. Try to overdo it. Rare is the woman who says, my husband is too loving, too tender, too kind, right? I've never heard anybody complain about that. But I think it's important that he says cuddle without needing to go to the next level of intimacy. And I think that's where women get upset sometimes is they think, okay, you're being nice to me because you're expecting something else. And if that's not the deal, I'm just hugging you because I love you, that's pretty good. And wives will react very positively to that. Okay. 16, be each other's best friend. Be buddies. Romance and dates are nice, but really be best friends. Flirt. Wink at each other. Banter. It really makes things fun, easy, and awesome. Marriage with effort and the right person is incredible. Well, I agree with that 100%, right? So what makes for good friends? That's a really good question, right? And if I asked you who your best friend was, who would you tell me? You'd give me somebody's name, and I'd say, well, how do you know that person is your best friend? And you'd say something like, well, I could tell that person anything. I can confide in them my fears, my deepest, darkest secrets. When I'm feeling low, they pick me up, and when I'm feeling great, they join in my happiness and in my joy, right? Friendship is one of the 4 kinds of love that Aristotle talked about. that are so critical in a marriage. So there's love of friendship, love of kindness, there's physical love, and then there is sacrificial love, agape love. And so friendship is the first part, and that should be what happens first in the courting process as we develop a friendship, some common interests, etc., and we enjoy being in each other's company, and we're emotionally safe. Part of friendship is emotionally safe, that my friend is never going to intentionally say anything that could upset me or harm me. So be generous with signs of affection. 17, remember that they are important. She is important. This guy goes on to say, I originally wrote, make her feel important. Then I changed it to make her important. I think that statement, though, best guide you on the course of action you need to take. She is important. When you come home and she's telling you about her day, get off your phone. Stop staring at the computer screen. Put down what you're doing and listen to her. Man, I'm with you on that. Make sure she is acutely aware that for as long as she's talking to you, she is the only thing in the universe. Look her in the eye, nod along, ask follow-up questions. If it's a date night, leave the phone at home. Don't interrupt her when she's talking. There's not much I could say to improve on that. I mean, I think this guy has nailed it. And I think there are people, and I wish I was better at it. I've run into a few of them, that when you're talking to them, you just know that you're the most important person in the world and nothing else matters because they are talking to you. And they just know that you're not thinking about anything else in the world. You're not distracted by any other thoughts other than exactly what that person is saying. I think as husbands, wives as well, we could certainly take a lesson out of that playbook. So retain your individuality, right? Make sure you get plenty of time apart, time for yourself, schedule guys' nights out, take up hobbies, stay active. You're a person and not some messed up Siamese twin, okay? For your sanity, to quell resentment and impatience, to soothe irritation, just get away from each other once in a while. I think that's true, right? You need your own hobbies, your own interests, and you need some time apart. The key here, I think, is balance. Some time apart's a good thing. Time out with friends, but time together as well. And so you just have to negotiate what that looks like. Primary focus is on your spouse. 19, kiss like you mean it, right? Never kiss her halfway. I think don't do anything halfway is some grade A solid wisdom. If you're going to kiss her, do it right with all of you, with your hands and your arms. Do it like you mean it every single time, not for the sake of anything else, save the simple fact that a kiss between you and your wife is the simplest way to say you love her and refuse to love her lazily. Well, that's pretty good advice too, right? I mean, a peck on the cheek is a fine thing, but a real husband-wife kiss is a pretty special thing that you only get to share with your spouse, right? So it's one of those husband-wife exclusives. It's a nice thing. Keep it that way. All right, so I'm not sure if this is tongue-in-cheek or not. Number 20, marry the right person. My spouse and I have been together almost a decade now, through some intense Lifetime movie of the week stuff, and we're still swinging. I owe a lot of that to her. I like to think of myself like some more handsome Confucius as I get older. But the truth is, we would have never have gotten to where we are now with me armed with these tiny bits of wisdom I've summoned, if not for her infinite patience. So I suppose my first bit of advice would be get lucky and hook a good one who's willing to put up with you while you grow up and learn to be a man. Here's the encouraging news, I think. Nothing turns a boy into a man quicker than taking on the responsibility to care for a wife and the children that will flow from that, right? Young men tend not to grow up, and they tend to keep playing and being somewhat irresponsible until all of a sudden they meet some woman who sees what they could be and has faith in them and says, okay, I'll take a risk and go through the rest of my life with you. And all of a sudden, that boy becomes a man. And that's a pretty special thing to behold. And yeah, marrying the right person, that's a good idea. And so then my final piece of advice, the husband should always have the last word. Always. And that word should be, yes, dear. There we go. All right, there you have it. I hope you found something there you could take away and strengthen your marriage and have some good fun along the way. This entire episode of Marriage Unhindered is on the updated Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers.